Kamen Rider, the bike race, is an addition to the Simple Character 2000 budget series of games that was released for the PlayStation in 2001 and was published by Bandai, that mainly focuses on arcade gameplay aesthetics that acts more of a spin-off to the Kamen Rider series, as this character was highly popularised in Japan, that spawned a variety of different games and genres, so it eventually moved into the arcade racing genre to utilise racing bikes. So if you're familiar with earlier racing games, both in the arcade and even on earlier console editions, if we look at the likes of Ridge Race or Daytona USA, Sega Rally, they all have one unique thing in common. They have access to a select amount of cars and tracks that you can use, but the amount of tracks that are on offer really are limited. They only have maybe 3 or 4 tracks if in general, or in most cases you might have the same track but it might open up different variations, and the bike race is no different to those games in that respect. It has a limited number of tracks. It does have a select few characters that you can choose, each with their own attributes and abilities, but the gameplay aesthetics are quite similar to more mainstream arcade games. The only difference is that you're playing with bikes, with the first or earlier editions of tracks being somewhat simplified to get used to the familiarity of the game, but will gradually increase in difficulty as you go on to the later tracks that are on offer. So you can either play like through a single player or time trial, or you can play through a campaign mode, which will require you to play through all of the tracks in the game, but as a result you will need to complete all of the tracks in first place to unlock all of the additional characters, bikes and whatever else the game has at its disposal. So there is some replay value in it, but it's really only just in short bursts, as the game itself isn't overly long but is somewhat challenging and will take a few attempts to get familiar with the gameplay style and controls. But with this game being only released in Japan, very few people know that this game even exists, but for those that have played it will understand that it is a very typical arcade style racer that takes a lot of inspiration from earlier games, as I mentioned, but just adds in its own unique appeal and idea. It is a fun game for what it does represent, but it won't last too long, so the appeal will wear off very quickly. But it is fast paced and there's a lot of insane and almost frantic elements in it that will appeal to the adrenaline junkie among us. But for those looking for a more realistic approach or something a bit more mainstream, would be better to look at the likes of either Road Rash or the Motor Racer series. But this does have enough different quirks and nuances, and also the fact is that it has iconic Japanese TV characters in it, will make that appealing to fans of that series. But at the end of the day, it just is a typical mainstream arcade racer at heart, and that's the fun appeal of it in all respects to it. But I would love to know your thoughts of this game if you have played it yourself, and if so, what did you think of it, or did you even know that the game even exists? So be sure to share it down in the comments below, and if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, and as always, keep those gaming memories alive.